Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we have another series review, and if the sweater didn't give it away, you guys guessed it. We are doing the Zodiac Academy review today, guys. So it is going to be a long one. So definitely, if you haven't already, grab yourself a drink. Depending on the time of day, grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your water, grab your wine, whatever you want, and sit back down and hang out with me for a while and make sure you're comfortable, because this is going to take a while. It's going to take a minute, guys. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 books to get through. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the video. But before we do that, for those of you who are new, welcome to the channel. My name is Jaya. I put out book-related content every Wednesday and Sunday with a little splattering of randomness here and there. And I love sharing my obsession with books with all of y'all. If that sounds like it's the right spot for you, then you are definitely in the right place, because we're going to talk all things books here. Now, I will also preface this by saying that I primarily read fiction. I read a wide variety of fiction. And I do every once in a while read some memoirs and some nonfiction here and there, but the nonfiction is definitely on the lower end of the spectrum. That I would say 99% is going to be fiction. And if that sounds like it's something you would enjoy, then definitely stick around. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk even more about books, guys. Let's do it. And we are going to have a spoiler-free Zodiac Academy review. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. Now, Zodiac Academy is an interesting series. The best way to describe it, it's a magic system. You have a bunch of different human fae, like fae that look like humans, but each of them have a different class that they can turn into. And they also are, so basically they can shift. They also have magical powers. Now, their powers are stemmed within a certain element. So there's one of 4 different elements that each of them can really connect with and wield. Some characters have 2 elements, some characters have 3, some characters have 4. It is almost unheard of for anyone to have more than 2. Most people have 1. The elements are earth, water, fire, and air. So basically we're talking about regular elements. There's also spells and there's dark magic and things like that, and a 5th element that is later revealed to be something else, which I'm not going to get into because that's really what you find out as you continue through the series and becomes a major plot point in the books as we move forward. The entirety of the book is basically following 2 girls. They are twins that have been abandoned, if you will, in the human world because their parents were the king and queen of all of Solaria. Solaria is the kingdom in which this series takes place. It is fae on fae. It's dog eat dog. Everyone wants power. But the beauty of the society is it really functions on this idea that people will go head to head. They don't get involved in other people's messes, and the strongest rules. However, obviously the evil characters have side agendas. Obviously they do creepy things. Obviously they definitely are shady AF. But that being said, that's what keeps the plot rolling. There are 3 major bad guys that you will experience throughout the course of the novel. 2 are kind of present longer. 1 really only shows up at the end, and I personally felt like didn't really understand why he was there. But that's neither here nor there. All of those characters really start developing and push the rest of our characters together. So, trigger warnings. So many. This is a bully romance, okay? It's a bully romance. And I'm not saying that lightly. Like, when I read this first book, I was ready to throw it against a wall and literally question my entire life for finishing this book, and then questioning the sanity of the writers for writing these women to fall in love with these male characters within the book. Like, that's how bad of a bully book was. I was crying. I was livid. This first book is not for the faint of heart. It is a lot. It is very overwhelming. But before we jump into that, I'm coming back to what I was talking about before. So it's a magic system. It's a dark academic setting. So you definitely have school vibes. You definitely have magic vibes. You definitely have evil character vibes. I would say probably closest to like a Harry Potter-ish book, but with fae. and it's going to be a lot darker than Harry Potter, and it's going to be a lot spicier than Harry Potter. Now, the world of Solaria is very interesting because there is a total of now 24 books within this world. It has 3 separate series that are completed and then 1 new series that has just begun. That being said, it does mean that the books are read in a very interesting order. Earlier, sometime this month or last month, I had posted a review video about the first set of books that are predating the Zodiac Academy series, but are read fourth in terms of sequence of books that you're reading, and that was Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac. So Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac is basically a precursor to what happens in Zodiac Academy. It's basically following 4 main male leads and 1 female lead. It is a reverse harem series. It is a lot. It is very, very fun. It's overwhelming. It's emotional. It's frustrating. It's everything you can think of emotionally within a set of books. The men are so well written. The female character I have my qualms with, but the men are so well written, and they all show up at various times throughout the Zodiac Academy series. So for that reason, the order of reading is going to be the first 3 books of Zodiac Academy, then you do Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, then you come back to Zodiac Academy, you continue reading the rest of Zodiac Academy, including the novellas in various spots, and then you finish off with the Darkmoor Penitentiary series, which follows another female character, Rosalie, as well as her harem of 4 men in a completely separate series set within a different aspect of Solaria, basically within the prison system that exists in the Solarian kingdom. So, in my humble opinion, Zodiac Academy is worth reading. It's a lot of fun. It gets much better as the series progresses, and by the time you hit book 3 and you have to switch to Ruthless Boys, it is physically painful. At least for me, it was physically painful. This series, I started it, I want to say mid-October-ish time frame. I was planning on just reading 1 book, which was going to be The Awakening. I have managed to, between the span of October and November, finish all of these books. And let me tell you, they're not small books. So that's kind of a background on what Zodiac Academy is, what this world is, what the vibes are, all that good stuff. So let's kind of jump into each of the different books. So the first book here is Zodiac Academy, The Awakening. In this book, you will get introduced to our 2 main female lead characters, Darcy and Tori Vega. They are the lost twins. They are the heirs of the Savage King. The Savage King and his wife have been brutally murdered, and because of that, their mother is a seer and therefore predicts that the children are in danger, and therefore switches them out for 2 mortal children, and they get left behind. Now, they are also attacked in the mortal realm, but they manage to survive. They grow up till the age of 18 without their magical signatures being traced. Then all of a sudden, they show up on all the radars, and now they have to be recruited to go back to Zodiac Academy to train and learn how to use their powers and understand what their order class is, so that once they're able to shift and they have full understanding of their magical powers, they can potentially contend for the Solarian throne. Where does the bullying come in? So these poor girls who have no idea what they're getting themselves into, have been through foster system after foster system after foster system, are absolutely struggling just to survive in life, but they're fighters. They are fighters through the core. Are pulled into this academic setting where everything is fey on fey, which means the teachers also allow aggressive bullying to happen, because the idea is that you have to fight for the right to have your place. They get taken to this academy, they have their powers awakened, and everyone now sees them as a threat, including the 4 celestial heirs. Now, what are the celestial heirs? Well, as I mentioned, the king and queen have been brutally murdered, and so now we have celestial rulers who are basically 4 different families, each with one particular element that they are known for, that are very powerful, very influential, and have had the ear of the king and queen prior to their demise, that band together to then run Solaria together. So the sons of the current Celestial Council then become the heirs. So they've been awakened since the age of 15. They are definitely like the Fae to look out for. They are definitely the ones that are celebrated and watched at every turn. They have been raised in the politics of how to run a kingdom, and they are currently at school, and these girls show up who are major threats to their throne. Now, the reason why I say this is a bully romance is because the males take it upon themselves to wreak havoc in these girls' lives. It's honestly painful to see. The end of this first book was physically painful. I cried. I cried at the end of this book. I was ready to throw it against a wall. There is so much aggressive bullying in this book that it is painful. Do I see myself reading this again? No, I do not. Do I fully understand the attraction that some of these characters have to one another and continue to treat each other the way that they do? I do not. However, I also understand that family dynamics and family power struggles and all those things are very, very real. And at the end of this book, you are really, really, really rooting for these two girls. Let me just put it that way. You're really, really rooting for them. This is a brutal book. Brutal. It emotionally bruises you. It hurts you. But you do get to meet Geraldine, who happens to be one of my favorite characters and is a hardcore fangirl of the two princesses. Great, 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 great start to the series. Extremely painful. Pissed me off to no end. And for that reason, I gave it a 2-star. I know. Hear me out. I know I've read all 14 books and we're starting out with a 2-star, but let me tell you about the second book. So this book is called Ruthless Fae. Now this book is so funny because the two girls, even though they have been beaten down, they're miserable, and they're almost chased out of school, this book starts off with the two of them thinking, hey, we're going to get back at the guys. And that's where I'm going to leave it. That's all I'm going to say about this book. They're continuing to train. They're continuing to learn. They're making their friends. They're making their, connections with the different fae in the world. They're navigating systems. And you're also seeing how they continue to grow as individuals as well as together. And you also get to see various romances starting to kind of spark. You also get to see a little bit of the heir's point of view, which is really fun because in this book, you only get the girls' views. You do not get the boys' views. So in this one, you actually get to see in the mind of the boys, and it helps you understand a little bit better where they may have been coming from in the first book while watching them go through miserable things happening to them because the girls do enact their revenge in very small and funny ways. And the cliffhanger at the end of this book definitely keeps you going. You want to know what's going to happen at the end of this book. Unfortunately, they still haven't figured out their order yet. So if you are waiting for the girls to shift and you're waiting to figure out what they're going to be, what their class is, where is their hierarchy in terms of what they turn into in terms of the world, you're not going to get that in these first 2 books. However, the recommended reading order is that you do read this book next. And this one I enjoyed a lot more. It still wasn't quite a 5-star read for me because I think there's a lot more that needs to happen to the guys before I can be like, okay, fine, you redeem yourself. So that being said, still struggled a little bit with this one with the guys, but I did enjoy the overall banter and I did enjoy the overall pranks and things like that that were pulled in this book. And it was really nice to see the girls grow a spine. So this one I ended up giving a 3-star. The next one. This book was probably my favorite, one of my favorites in the series. This book is The Reckoning. In this book, a lot of crazy things happen. First and foremost, you get to learn a little bit more about some of the major characters. Now, I keep mentioning there's 4 celestial heirs, but there's one other character you should know about, and it's Professor Orion. I'm an Orion girl. I freaking love Orion. I have all things related to Orion. I have an Orion t-shirt. I have Orion bookmarks. And I am now so obsessed with Zodiac Academy that I have a Zodiac Academy travel mug, okay, from the Bookish Box, because, your girl's gotta have her things that are related to books. So, yeah, Orion. Orion is the teacher of cardinal magic. He also happens to be just a few years older than the girls. He got roped into this situation by one of our evil characters, and he's bonded emotionally with one of the male characters that's one of the heirs in the book because they have been bonded to be guardian and person being guarded, I guess is the best way to describe it, by the evil guy. Sorry guys for the yawns. I'm sorry. It's 9:20 here and I'm already ready to go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? Your girl's old, but loved Orion's character. So he should also be mentioned. He's also one of the major of the 5 main guys in this series. He's also one of the love interests. Just freaking love Orion. Anyways, so in this book, you get to see a little bit behind the scenes between 2 characters, and the males, which is Darius and Orion. They have their own side spin-off gig going on where they're trying to gain control of dark magic in order to stop one of the evil characters. So you learn a little bit more about what's going on with that. You also get to see more of the guy's perspective, so that's a lot of fun. So you get to see Darius's perspective. He's one of the heirs. You get to see Caleb's perspective, one of the heirs. You get to see Seth's perspective, one of the heirs, and you get to see Max's perspective, one of the heirs. You also get the perspectives of Tori and Darcy Vega, and you also get the perspective of Orion. This is really, really fun. You also discover what order the girls are in this book. You also get to see a lot more of the strife of what's going on in the kingdom outside of the bullying in the school and the academia. So basically, you know how like in Harry Potter, you have Voldemort in the background and he's doing his thing, and you have your Death Eaters and all that kind of stuff that's happening in the background, and then you have the academic setting. This is kind of like that. You have the academic setting, and then you have things happening in the outside. So the outside is going to be controlled by a nymph population that's like targeting the Fae. You're going to have evil manipulators going on in the background. You have kings that need to be like wannabe kings that need to be toppled. You have crazy things happening with that, you know, fifth element that I told you about that isn't like actually normal to the Fae, nor is it something that's really understood or spoken about, but they're trying to dabble in dark magic. You have that situation going on. So this is starting to pull into that a little bit more. And the way that this book ends, it leaves you on such a cliffhanger that you want to keep reading. And then you're literally told, oh, no. Go read the other series, okay? Go read the other series. And the other series has nothing to do with this, because the other series, which is The Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac, predates this. So you have no inclination of what's going on. You're chewing your fingernails trying to get through those books so you can come back to this. And then you finally get to go to book 4. But before we jump to book 4, I will tell you that this was a solid 4 stars for me. I really loved this book. This is probably the first one that I really, really ate up, and I was ready to keep going with this series. So yeah. Also, these are the alternate covers. So the new covers they're doing has like this gold kind of finish to them. And they also have ones that have like pictures of people on them. I specifically looked for these versions on Amazon in order to get the alternate covers with no pictures on them. And I love the wall detailing that kind of flows through all the different books. So just as a heads up that if you don't see these copies in your local bookstore, that is why. Although I think they haven't changed all the Zodiac Academy books yet. I do know they have the alternate covers with like the faces of the main female lead and then the 4 male leads for the Ruthless Boys series. And I know the Alpha Wolf series or the Darkmoor Penitentiary series has like pictures of the main female on that as well. But I would say that these covers are just better for me. So before we jump into book 4 now, you are going to read your first novella. Now this novella is called Origins of an Academic Bully. This gives you the story of Darius and Orion prior to the beginning of them coming to school. So after Orion this is basically what shows us how Orion ends up as a professor against his will, how he ends up bonded to Darius, and how Darius ends up in the predicament that he is and why they're doing the dark magic. It's all the background that you want entering into the series that gives you a little bit of a taste as to why they're doing the things they're doing in books 1 through 3, particularly in book 3. So you're going to read this next. This is super short. It's literally going to take you like maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours to finish. It's like literally like 100 and something odd pages. It's 127 pages. Super short, super easy read, but it definitely has a powerful pack of punch in it. Say that 7 times fast. This basically is going to give you a lot of the background that you need in order to continue the series. I didn't really rank that one. I guess if I have to think about it, I'd probably give it like a solid 3 stars. There's nothing super exciting about it where I'm obsessed with it or I love it, but it definitely gives you an introduction into the upcoming story. It kind of sets the base for what's going on in the background that'll help build the plot line for the rest of the series. Then we move into book 4. Shadow Princess. So Shadow Princess, I think, is a really powerful book because this is really setting the stage for the second evil character that enters into the play. This is how she comes to be. And it really tells the story of the craziness that we're dealing with when we're talking about that 5th element and everything that's going on, you know, surreptitiously in the background without the rest of the Fae community knowing. This one I think was a lot of fun. You also get a lot more romance in this one, which is really fun. And then you have a special moment that happens at the end of this book that is absolutely heartwarming, heartbreaking, everything all at once. And you are kind of setting the stage for book 5. Now, book 4 is going to be a lot more of a dynamic between the bullies, the 4 celestial heirs, and Orion and the girls, begrudging respect from the males towards the girls. You see the girls really blossoming and holding their own, still having a lot of hesitancy towards trusting the boys, understandably, but it's just a lot of fun to see that interaction. I would say, for me personally, this is definitely one of my favorites in the series. I gave this a solid 4.5 stars. I think it's just a great book. The cliffhanger at the end of this, like, you eat this up. So this is a lot of fun to read, and once you're into this book, I feel like that's when you get hooked. That's when you're truly hooked into the series. The next book in the list is book 5. For my romantic girlies out there, this is your romantic book. This is it. This is it. It has so much romance. It really builds up the romance between all the characters. It also talks a lot about the mean girl drama that's happening at school. It shows the girls kind of like really coming into their powers, their magic, understanding their abilities. It kind of becomes known what their order is to the rest of the world. You start seeing a blend between the school world and the outside world. You get more of an idea of who the evil tyrants and all that kind of stuff is and are. It has some very, very spicy scenes in this book that are fun to read. There's some spice in the other ones too, but this is when it starts getting more spicy, more romantic. So for my romance girlies out there, this book is great. It is a little bit of a filler book. There are important things that happen in it, but I would say that like it's definitely more about the character development and the romance. So if you're into that kind of book, this is great. I loved this one. This was definitely one of my favorites. This was a solid 5-star read. Let me just tell you guys, this book is, to be exact, 917 pages, and I finished this in a day. Your girl ate this up. Ate it up. Delicious. Digested it so well. Loved this book. This book made me cry. This book made me laugh. This book is just so much fun, and I would definitely read this one again because I just love all the romance in this book. So we have that. We have some crazy plot twists that happen. Also, I just think it's really funny that this happens to be the green book, and my favorite color is green. So it's just saying something. It's just saying something. It speaks to me. What can I say? So after you finish this, you also have another romance that starts occurring between my girl Geraldine and Max, and that one is just so funny to watch. Geraldine is hilarious. She's also the head leader of the ASS Society, which, yes, spells ass. It is basically the, what is it? I forgot what it stands for, guys. My bad. Something Sovereign Society, and I'm blanking right now, but basically she's all about getting Darcy Vega and Tori Vega on the throne. She is unabashedly, unashamedly, completely and totally loyal to them, and she is one of the strongest, most ridiculous, most hilarious characters you will ever see in the series. She's so funny, she's so strong, and it's just really cute to see her and Max developing a romance, especially when Max is like, the heirs must rule, and Geraldine's like, y'all suck, the twins should rule. So it's just really funny to see that dynamic too. So that's kind of introduced in books 4 and 5 a little bit too. And then this book is called The Big Ass Party. This is basically a novella that's meant to be read after book 5. It's about the almighty Sovereign Society throwing a party where basically they talk about all the things that they're going through, and they're doing this under the, they're doing this without other people knowing that this party is going on, if that makes any sense, and you get some revelations. It's spicy. This one's spicy. It's a spicy little novella. It's spicy, guys. It's spicy, if you know what I'm saying. But it's a fun one to read. So definitely recommend, and it definitely puts perspective for some of our characters. Next up, we have book number 6. Book number 6, Fated Throne, is basically taking place after a very, very tragic ending in book 5. The twins have been separated. There's a lot of drama going on. There is, essentially kidnapping going on, unfortunate bonding taking place that never should have happened. So you have like a really dark start to this book. It's difficult to get through this one, but I think it's a very powerful book. There's a lot that happens in this book. It definitely talks about more of the world building. It definitely has more of the plot line development. It definitely has more of the character development, character growth. Not as strong on the romance in this one, but still very, very well written and enjoyable to read. This one, the ending breaks my heart, but it was still Very entertaining to read. And yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it with this one. This one was a solid 4.5 stars for me. It was painful to get through, and it took me a while, so it was hard for me to finish it, but I did enjoy the journey, if that makes any sense. Actually, let's not call it a 4.5. Let's call it a 4-star. That's probably what it's closer to it actually is, but it was still an enjoyable read, and I would definitely recommend it in order for you to understand the series. But it's not my favorite. It's not my least favorite either, but it is an enjoyable read. And I'm just going to leave it there. I'm also going to switch out my stacks now because I have no space. So we finished stack number 1. So we're about halfway through the books, okay? So after you finished book 6, at this point, you kind of see that the boys are starting to develop a relationship with the ladies. They are starting to realize that these girls are actually quite powerful, and they are very, what is the word I'm looking for? Impressive. That's the word I'm looking for. That took a while. They're very impressive characters, and they're characters that have leadership skills and are very, very beautiful at heart. And the boys are starting to realize this. So they're slowly begrudgingly accepting that they have a friendship and a relationship with these girls. They also put aside all of the drama in the 6th book because they have a common enemy that they're now working against rather than fighting one another. So it's interesting to see that dynamic shift between the girls and the boys, especially between one of them and their bullies. So that was very interesting to read. And so that makes it the perfect time to read book number 1 novella, The Awakening as Told as the Boys. Now, this is the first book retold. It is longer than the first book as well. And this is purely from the perspective of the boys. So you have Orion, Darius, Seth, Max, and Caleb's perspectives in this book. It's a lot more tolerable. The first book is a lot more tolerable after you finish this book and you actually see how awful the boys feel about the things that they're doing, how much they have to repress pieces of their true self in order to accomplish this goal of just basically crushing this threat, and how much pressure they have from the entire Fae community as well as from their parents to put these girls in their place because they need to show Solaria that they can rule. So you definitely have more of a soft spot for them in this book, and I'm not excusing any of the things they did. I'm still absolutely livid, but it was nice to be able to get their perspective, and it definitely took a little bit of the blow from the first book off. So that was enjoyable. I enjoyed this one a lot more than the original first book. This one was a solid 4 stars for me, whereas the original first, if you guys remember, was a 2-star read. So yeah, definitely recommend continuing with that. Once you finish that, so at book 6, you kind of leave off at this cliffhanger, but you kind of also left off with all the characters in a very interesting predicament in terms of where they are emotionally, where they stand with one another. Lots of pain, lots of overwhelming, just crapola happening. They've all been beaten down so hard. They're so exhausted, and yet they still continue to go. And after you read that novella, the retelling of the first story from the boys' perspective, you are getting gear and you are ready to go. And that brings me to book number 7, which is Heartless Sky. This book is all about the romance as well. It definitely is a massive book. I ate this book up too. It took me a day to finish this one as well. It was very similar to book 5 in that sense. There's a lot of romance. There's a lot of plotline development. There's a lot of movement towards getting to a point of conclusion and really defeating the evil guys. They have a plan in place. So it's fun. It's a fun read for sure. And I definitely encourage everyone to pick this book up and read it. This was probably the 5-star read for me in this series as well, outside of Cursed Fates. I love this book. I'm going to leave it there. It's a lot. It's a lot that happens. And once again, let me just tell you, okay? Because y'all are here with me going through my emotional baggage as I think about this book series. This is 1,009 pages. My heart. I'm going to leave it there. 5-star. Then we get to book 8. Book 8 made me mad. It was long. You introduced a new bully that didn't need to be there. The girls finally succeed at something, and then it just gets ripped out from underneath them. Oh, book 8 makes me so mad. But at the same time, a lot happens in book 8. At the end of book 7, there's a character. Anyways, this one, you are following the stories of Darcy and Tori. They have been separated. Darcy is in captivity. Tori is dealing with a broken emotional heart, and both of them are, for the first time, not functioning as a single unit, as siblings. They're really coming in on their own. They're dealing with a lot of their own demons. It's all about character development. It also shows how the girls create a relationship between the council members that were originally ruling Solaria versus the tyrants that are currently like taking over the world. It also shows like how strong the bond between the celestial heirs has become with the girls. There's a lot of good things about this book. There are a lot of good things. It's chunky. It's massive. It's a lot. And I felt like it didn't need to be this long. It didn't need to be this long. It didn't need to be this much. But you get more of a definition of the fifth element in this one. And this is a slow read, guys. This is a slow read. At least it was for me. Still took me about 3 days to finish this book, so I got through it pretty fast. But that being said, like, it was slower compared to a lot of the other books. But I promise it's worth the wait, because the next one, which is a novella, is actually worth all of it. This book is 985 pages, but I promise you can do it. I promise you can get through it. And at the end of this book, you have a new villain. Yay! Why? But yay! Anyways. As if they don't have enough to deal with. Then we get to 8.5, which is Beyond the Veil. I loved this novella. I loved it. This was a 5-star novella for me. This book is hilarious because this book is being told by the dead. So there are things that transpire in the previous 8 books plus the novellas, and particularly at the end of the 7th book where one of the main characters dies. It's sad, it's heartbreaking, it's overwhelming. There's just so much power being stripped from these girls and the celestial heirs. They've gone through hell and back. And this book is being told from the perspective of all the lost loved ones. And it's so much fun to read. You get a perspective of everything that's happened in book 8, but you're getting it from the perspective of the loved ones and what's happening beyond the veil, and kind of that concept that your loved ones never truly leave you. It's that vibe. It's so much fun. It's so great. And I'm going to leave it there because I feel like if I say anything more, it'll spoil it. 5-star read, even though it's a novella. 5-star read. Loved this book. Then we have book number 9. We finally make it to the end. So naturally in this book, they go through hell, they go through hell, they go through hell. They're successful. They go through hell, they go through hell, they go through hell. So they're successful. They go to hell, they go to hell, they go to hell. They finally win super fast. So you've been through 7 books of turmoil and pain, and the bad guys die like that, comparatively. But at the end of the book, you do have a happy conclusion. It's the series wrap up. It's great. You get a bunch of... The thing I love about these sisters who write these books is that fact that every single book series that they ends with a bunch of epilogues. So you get to see epilogues of these characters years in advance, and you kind of get to see them as they rule Solaria. You get to see them as they're getting married and they're having babies and they're creating lives and what family time looks like. And it's just really beautiful. I really love the endings that they create for these books. I loved the way that Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac ended. I loved those little snippets that you got throughout the epilogue at the end of the series. Same thing with this one. I loved the way this book ended. I loved the little snippets that you get. But I do think the bad guys were beaten a little too fast considering how much they went through to get there. But it was still a really, really fun read. And I loved the little twist at the end when they kind of show what happens beyond the veil, because we got a chance to see beyond the veil. So we're obviously invested in those characters too. So it's really fun to see them get their revenge. Overall, great book. Really enjoyed it. Gave it a 4 stars. Not quite a 5 stars, but it's a 4 stars. It's a great conclusion to a series. I think any series, when you reach a conclusion, people always have thoughts on things that could have been done differently, done better. But overall, I think they did a tremendous job with this series. And then last but not least, there are miniature snippets in this book. This is a compilation of different viewpoints of different scenarios that happen in each of the different books. And you get different alternative perspectives for some of the more featured or important events that happen in the book, whether it be romantically or whether it be a serious moment. I thought it was so much fun to read. I thought it was very enjoyable. I like the fact that it's kind of narrated in between by Lionel, who is our evil character. And it's just fun to see his evil, maniacal brain working the way that it does. Overall, I would say that this was an enjoyable read. There were aspects of this book where I was like, I really don't care. And then there were other aspects that were just absolutely amazing. So there is that to consider. But I will say that this was definitely a fun read and worth topping off the series. It's like the cherry on top. And this was a solid 4-star read for me as well. So overall, the series is pretty much between 4 to 4.25. There were many books in here that were 5 stars. There's definitely some romance in here that gets to me. There's definitely some very spicy scenes in there as well. The spice scenes can be skipped if you want to skip them without ruining the book and the plot line. So if you're not a spice girl, that's totally fine. You can definitely skip that if you want. But overall, I do think the series was a wonderful read. If you guys made it this far, congratulations. I know it was a long one. Thank you for sticking around and sitting here talking about books with me. If this was something that you enjoy, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell. If you're new here, we do book reviews, book recommendations, book unboxings, book talk, book monthly wrap-ups, book TBRs, all that good stuff, all that jazz here on this channel. And if that's kind of your vibe, you're in the right place. So I put out videos every Wednesday and Sunday for your entertainment and for my entertainment, because I love talking about books with everyone. Leave comments. I love reading them. I love responding to them. So let me know if any of this inspired you to go try to read the Zodiac Academy books and sink yourself into a world of 24 books. It's longer than Sarah J. Maas, okay? That's all I'm saying. And then for those of you who are returning, thank you so much for being here. It is such a pleasure to have you guys here celebrating this bookish world and this bookish vibe with me. It's really special and I thoroughly enjoy it. And that being said, I will catch you guys later because it is getting late here and I am going to go crash. But I will definitely catch you guys on the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time. Bye, guys.